Sergey, you've been talking at Cybos this morning about the development of Moscow as a financial services hub internationally. Can you give us an overview of what recent changes have been put in place?
There are a number of changes. First of all, of course, we have a detailed roadmap developed together with the federal government of the Russian Federation. This is actually a very big list of problems, what we are very well aware of and what we intend to solve. We cannot solve all those problems just at once. It will take time, but we know those problems, they are identified, and we know the road, where to go, how to solve them. Problems are related mostly to the following areas. First of all, this is regulation. Of course, we need a thorough reform of legislation regulating financial services. A very close related field of legislation, this is taxation. Financial services business is a very complicated web of transactions, and it's not really clear still in Russia how to tax them and at what stage. Then, of course, we have problems related to the creation of friendly environment for financial professionals, both Russian and international, to work in Moscow, to live in Moscow, to bring up children, to educate children. This is actually one of the areas where the city of Moscow government plays a role. We are now working on the creation of opportunities and some projects to help to create schools for children of expats, which will be of appropriate level and giving them good opportunities to bring up children.
As part of the development as an international financial centre, the financial infrastructure is very important. Can you talk me through some of the recent changes at MISEX, for example, in terms of merging settlement systems?
I can tell you my opinion on the client side, because we are, as the city of Moscow, we are the second biggest issuer of the government debt in the country after the Russian Federation itself. And we are one of the biggest clients of MISEX, because our bonds are placed on MISEX, they are listed on MISEX, they are traded on MISEX. And we, as clients, we really welcome this development because it creates a more transparent and simpler infrastructure for us. We are expecting good benefits out of that change.
You mentioned the requirement for regulatory change. Can you give me an overview of what the priorities are for changing regulation?
Priority number one is to create a clearing, legislation on clearing, legislation on settlement. This is one of the areas where international investors, international custodians are still not very happy with in Russia. The second priority is to create legislation on securitization of assets. Securitization still in Russia, under Russian law, is basically an open area. It's a legal void. There is no regulation. So definitely securitization is done in Russia by banks, by Russian companies, but it is done under English law and offshore. So that's priority number two, I guess, to create the law, legislation regulating securitization. Then we have another area of reform, which is, I think, is pending. This is to reform legislation regulating bond market, including bond market in government securities. Because the legislation what we have at the moment dates back to 1994, 1995, and it's a bit outdated. There are many changes. Of course, we think and we believe as the issues of government debt that there should be the reform of the budgetary legislation, because we are regulated not only by securities law, but also the budgetary law of the Russian Federation. And of course, we also need some changes in the budgetary law, giving us more flexibility. Then legislation on derivatives. Derivatives is another area which basically, as a legal reference, has only civil code of the Russian Federation. I believe, strongly believe, and here I share the view of the professional community that we need a special legislation regulating derivatives and complicated derivatives like interest rate derivatives, debt-related derivatives, not just simple futures and options.